my God, that music was so dramatic. Thank you all for coming to this absolute barnstormer of a session at TWT. Tonight we're asking, what is to be done? It is a question that socialists have been asking of themselves and our movement for decades. And I thought that I could start with a bit of scene setting, the really basic reason why we're all here. We're all here, I think, because we can recognize the multiple interlocking crises that define our age. We look at the world around us and we see crumbling public services, infrastructure which never gets built. We see the degradation of the things that we rely on to provide a dignified life for all as part of the welfare state. And all around us we see the rising tide of nationalism, racism, bigotry, and hatred. Many of us will have opened newspapers and been completely aghast at what we read, what is being said about our trans and non-binary brothers, sisters, and siblings. Many of us will open newspapers and will read absolutely bigoted screeds directed at people who resemble us, resemble our families, resemble our friends and our neighbours. And against all that, we're in the middle of a historic wealth grab by elites. Workers' share of what they make, what they produce, has gone down while wealth is hoarded in the form of property and rentierism. Margaret Thatcher promised a property-owning democracy. What we have is a tenant class and authoritarianism. And once upon a time, we would think about the environment, we would think about the climate as one issue amongst many. So maybe feminism was your thing, or maybe anti-racism was your thing, or maybe climate was your thing. And I think what we can all recognize as we pass tipping point after tipping point, catastrophic indicator after catastrophic indicator, is that climate is not one issue amongst many. It is the ground under our feet, it is the sky above us. It is the single most important defining condition of our politics. And yet still, our political and our media classes try to relegate it to the sidelines of our national conversation. Things can't go on the way that they are. The question is, what is to be done about it? So tonight is not a panel discussion. And I know that you guys love panel discussions, otherwise you wouldn't be at TWT. But tonight is not a panel discussion. The point of our speakers, as illustrious as they are, is to catalyze a discussion amongst all of you. Tonight is really about you, your thoughts, your ideas, your plans, and your strategies. If I'm going to be really pretentious about it, and I absolutely will, the watchword is Athenian participatory democracy. So I'm afraid that means no women and property owners only. But we're going to split it up into two halves. The first half of this evening, we're going to be talking about what are we doing wrong? What aren't we getting right? The purpose of this is to reflect honestly and critically at what has brought us to this exact juncture. We'll hear from our three speakers for 5 minutes each. I will be very strict on timekeeping with them, not only because I'm an asshole, but because, once more, I want to hear from you. And then after a merciful drinks break, so you can go to the bar, we'll be coming back and we'll be asking ourselves what kinds of organizations, what kinds of institutions are needed in order for us to win. Now, we have got, as I said, three incredible speakers this evening. We've got Hilary Wainwright, editor of the Red Pepper magazine, which you can buy here, co-editor, amongst 11. We nearly had all 11 of them, can you believe? Hilary is a sociologist, a feminist, a tireless activist, and has been one of the thought leaders of our movement for a very long time. We have Dr. Jamie Woodcock. I was told that I had to include the doctor, otherwise I would be kicked. We have Jamie Woodcock, a researcher on work and class composition, also an editor, a co-editor of Notes from Below. One of 11, again, my God. And of course, we've got Roger Hallam, the co-founder of Extinction Rebellion, Insulate Britain, and Just Stop Oil. So, without any further ado, I would like to invite Hilary Wainwright to come up, share her thoughts with you. And when you hear this noise, that means you've got 1 minute left. You can do it from there. Oh, Deborah says no.
Well, anything Deborah says goes, and I hope you've got an answer to the question. So it's wonderful to be here, and I'm sure most of the 11 Red Pepper editors are here, and so a lot of what I'm saying is influenced by discussions with them. And I suppose I wanted to turn the question a little bit round to make it, what did we not do right? And I suppose my main thing is that we got stuck again in that division that's bugged the left right since the founding of the Labour Party, between the division between the politics, which is the Labour Party, and industrial or social, which is the unions and community organisations. And we never really built those roots in working class organisations, in the unions and in community organisations. So we've not been in a position to, in a way, build the power that we needed to both support Jeremy throughout society, but also to be in a position to address the crises that Ash talked about, to be in a position where the urgency of the climate crisis we could address through the unions with whom we'd worked to develop alternatives in the North Sea, in high carbon industries, in communities facing austerity. I mean, in a way, we never really built on the forms of solidarity built during COVID. And I think that we got sucked into the Labour Party. I mean, it's understandable because the structures were there, so we drew into we went into them and tried to take them over instead of putting all that extra effort, creativity, much more difficult challenges of actually creating real roots in the community. And I think, knowing that we could do that is what we've now got to build on and think how to do it. But that comes on to the next session.
The succinctness of your thoughts. Oh, is this better? Yeah. There we go. Up next, we've got Jamie Woodcock answering the question, what are we getting wrong? Oh my God, what's going on here?
So I want to start by saying that the comments I'm going to make come out of collective discussions with Notes from Below, a journal that publishes experiences about work and about workers' struggles. And I want to talk about two failures, and I have some good experience to talk about this because I'm a UCU member, and I've been on strike every year for the last 10 years, and we've gone through a number of failures. And I think actually we need to talk about failures not as things that necessarily have to set us back or stop us from going on strike or stop us from struggling, but as things we can learn from, things we can learn lessons from and try to do things differently next time. And I think all of us in this room have probably been through some failures in the last 5, maybe longer, maybe shorter number of years. And I think the question is what we do about it. Do we dwell on those failures and say that the left has been unable to break through or been unable to do the things we wanted to be able to do? Or do we try and reflect, as hopefully we can in this first half of the talk, about what's gone wrong and why, collectively try to learn from it, and then in the second half think about what we can all do together? And I think one of the big failures that we need to make sense of is what Hilary talked about. How did we fail to make the connections between the struggles at work, the struggles in our communities, the struggles around oppression, and what happened inside parliamentary politics? And I think one of the risks is we can become obsessed with what went wrong in that moment and fail to be able to move forward. And so I think we need to think here at spaces like TWT and elsewhere about the lessons we can learn from that. And I think in part one of the risks is some of the arguments that are being made now is, we lost in that moment in the Labour Party, but our time in the Labour Party might come again in the next election, or the election after it, or the election after it. And I think we have to say this is an irresponsible position. If people want to stay and do these things in the Labour Party, they can do that, but for the rest of us, we can learn those lessons and think about what it is we can do in the here and now. Because one of the major defeats that we risk is I don't want to be here in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, thinking we could have done something different. We could have tried to move things forward, or we could have tried something else. Because the reality is the time is running out for progressive movements to do the things that they need to do. And so I want to say a couple of things to reflect on the strike wave, because my interest, the kind of organising I've been involved in is in the workplace. And we have been through a pivotal moment in working class struggle over the past couple of years. We've seen public sector workers go on strike, transport workers. We've seen the RCN take its first ever strike. We've seen private sector workplaces go on strike and win inflation-busting pay rises. We've seen a kind of regrowth of the trade union movement in new ways. But at the same time, lots of those struggles haven't broken through. And I think this is a really important challenge for us to think about what happened and what went wrong and what we can learn for other movements coming out of this. One part of this is that we are living through a huge deterioration in our conditions across almost all sectors. And I think a whole number of different trade unions felt like they had to take action, or otherwise members wouldn't see the point of staying in those unions and continuing to pay their dues. And so in a way, lots of these struggles came about, unfortunately not because people in this room were fighting for unions to take ballots to organise strikes, but through fear of what would happen if they didn't go on strike. Then in pivotal moments, we didn't prove powerful enough to keep those strikes going and to win the kinds of disputes that we wanted to win. And so across the public sector, we failed to break through. But I think one thing remains a kind of constant throughout all of these things, is that work isn't going to get any better. Like, work remains shit. Sunday mornings tell us this, when we realise we're going to have to go back to work the next day. And this continues to push us into fights over and over and over again. But what's important about this is that your experience at work matters, and the fights that you can take matter for how we shape a progressive politics. And it means how we can think of a politics from below that starts from those struggles. We can all answer those questions. Thank you.
Again, I'm very proud of our speakers. That was, again, under 5 minutes, which for people who are participating in discussions, it's a rarity, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And last but not least, we have Roger Hallam addressing the question, what have we been doing wrong? Roger.
I haven't started 5 minutes yet. No.
You're 8 seconds in, babe.
Well, the question I've got here is, why is the left losing? So I'm going to answer that in a sentence. Or at least, when I was thinking about the question, I was thinking what I want to say is, why the left is losing is because you're all being fucking cunts. I was wondering what the response would be. But I didn't decide definitely to say that. So part of me was going, Roger, don't be such a twat. You're just going to wind people up, go for an easy life. I've actually done 3 media events in the last week, and I'm a bit tired of talking to people about the murder of hundreds of millions of people, and they give me that psychotic smile, the, what's he called? Nick Robinson smirk. Do you know that? Anyway. But on the other hand, I thought I would say you're all fucking cunts, because it's true. It's true. And I'm going to sort of tell you why in about 2.5 minutes. So basically I go around telling people what the scientists have been telling us. They recently said in a peer-reviewed paper, and you might have heard this earlier on today, that the mainly rich of the world are in the process of killing 1,000 million people who are mainly poor. So this should be a reasonably familiar story to socialists with some historical consciousness, isn't it? That's what the rich do. They fucking kill the poor because they don't give a shit. And if you think that's like a little bit of a one-off, a friend of mine who's a head scientist at NASA wrote in Newsweek this week that we're facing billions of deaths. And I get sent this stuff all the time, right? You know, usually it's by posh scientists who can't quite bring themselves to say the real words, but they say things like, oh, we're facing civilization's end, or they go, what was it this week? The door to the safety of humanity is being slammed shut. That's very poetic, isn't it? So when I came to this conference this morning, I saw the socialist sign outside, and I thought, oh, here we go. You know, zombie land. You know what I'm saying? It's like everything's pretending it's fine, and everything's utterly fucked. It's a bit like, you know, Hitler's bunker in April 1945. Do you know that one? You know, the Russian tanks are coming, but it's okay, the ideology is in place. I spoke to a bunch of hunger strikers this week. So these people are going to starve themselves to death because they're so fucked off. And the Jewish guy is going to starve himself to death. And he said, the reason I'm starving myself to death is because we're going to have the Holocaust again. And people in my generation, I don't know about people younger, we were told when we were kids we're never going to have that again. Over our fucking dead bodies, are we going to have that again? And we are going to have it again. Because you're all being fucking cunts. Because you won't stand up and stop it. See what I'm saying? Good. I was hoping someone would say that. Shows you've got umph. Seriously, I don't want to stand here insulting you. You can insult me back. Let's have some emotion, for God's sake, right? You know, do you do what you like? I don't care. Okay, so here's a question for you. How many people need to die before you go in the road and do civil disobedience? So I asked myself these morbid questions. I reckon it's about 10, right? 10 people need to die in this country, and then you'll find yourself with the courage to get in the road. But why do those people have to die in order to get you off your asses into the road? It's a question, isn't it? But the more subtle question is who are those people, right? 20,000 people just died in Libya, didn't they? But they're Arabs, right? So they don't really count. If those 20,000 people died in Paris, we'd have like 1,000 people in this room. You'd change the agenda of the conference, and everyone would be talking about civil resistance because they're fucking white people, right? So you're also fucking racists, aren't you? Because you don't really care unless it's like people here, preferably in the home counties. Isn't that right?
We're at
okay, I've got two caveats. I've got two caveats.
5.5 minutes.
I know, but...
No, come on, man. We had this discussion.
Yeah, okay, give me 30 seconds.
You can have 30 seconds. I'm going to be staring at you for all 30 of them. You will absolutely get to hear more from Roger. We'll get to hear from all of you. We're going to have 30 seconds more, and then it's going to be time for the room discussion. So you can call anyone you like a fucking cunt. 30 more seconds.
Okay, so there's two caveats. Number one, I'm a fucking cunt too, right? Yeah? Because I only went to prison for 4 months. I mean, what was I doing? I should have gone for 5 years, like some people. You know what I'm saying? But that doesn't really let you off the hook, does it? It still means you're fucking cunts, even if I'm a fucking cunt. You know what I'm saying? Second thing is, I'm telling you you're fucking cunts because I love you all. Do you get it? Believe it or not, the reason I'm so fucked off with you is because you're supposed to be socialists and you're doing fuck all. right? If I was at a panel with Tories, I wouldn't be telling them they're fucking cunts, because they're already evil, right? The worst people in the world are not evil people. The worst people in the world are good people who refuse to act when evil things are happening. That's you. That's it.
I'm calling you a fucking cunt because I love you. Got some real flashbacks to my childhood. But look, we've had 3 very thought-provoking contributions. Now it's over to you. We've got some comrades walking around with microphones. I'm going to take hands in groups of 3. Does that work? I'm going to take hands in groups of 3. And this is an opportunity for you to share your questions, your thoughts, your provocations, your schemes. I'm going to ask you all to keep your contributions to no more than a minute. And that ain't a Hallam minute. It's a real minute. So, please, can I get hands? We'll be prioritising people who aren't men as well. So it would be lovely to hear from some people who aren't men. Okay, we've got purple floral top right there. And then we've got winged eyeliner in the middle. And we've got glasses over there. And then I'm going to do the wings, don't worry.
I'm going to speak because Roger's making me speak, and this is what I told him earlier. It's really loud. 80% of the fruit and veg we consume and import in this country comes from Spain, in particular southern Spain. But climate change has already arrived. A lot of the food shortages we saw earlier this year are because southern Spain is in the process of desertification, which means that over time, because of extreme heat waves, more and more of that land is becoming uninhabitable and not possible for growth of the fruit and veg we consume in this country. So climate change has already happened, and it's happening right now. It's contributing to food shortages in the UK, and it's only going to get worse and more chronic in the next few years and decades to come. So I just really wanted to say that here, is that this is not some abstract thing. This is happening right now, and we need to actually put some action in place to think about how we're going to feed ourselves for the next few years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've got winged eyeliner, cut-off T-shirt in the middle.
Thank you. I am, like you said, not a man, but I'm going to do a very man thing and say this isn't really particularly constructive, but it's a comment, which is that it was... I'd like us all to just reflect for a second. I don't know how constructive it is, but it was really interesting being here right now in a very white room and having a white person as being one of the only people I can see here who isn't white talking about racism and climate justice. There was quite like a jarring dissonance for me where I felt really uncomfortable for a second, and I'd like to know if any other white people in the room felt that as well, and are happy to sit with that.
And we've got glasses shirt over there. Yeah.
We have... Sorry. Didn't realise it would be so loud. Sorry. We have the same very vague discussions every year about the need to build connections between different parts of the movement and different struggles. Those kinds of connections, they don't just happen automatically by themselves. If you want those to be meaningful connections that actually build together into an effective strategy that can really change things, you need actual organisation. You can't just hope things happen naturally and organically. The left used to build those kinds of organisations, democratic mass membership organisations, for allowing socialist militants in different struggles, in trade unions, in social movements, to talk to each other, to work together, to build collective strategy. We can't just keep having these vague discussions. We need to build real organisation.
So the good thing about tonight is that we actually have dedicated the entire second half of this evening to having exactly that discussion. So please bear that in mind. Think about what you want to say in that next half. We will be hearing from our speakers again. I'm going to take 3 more from the periphery. We have got green shirt, dark shirt, another dark shirt.
What is it that's getting people not to act? What is it that will get you to act? Because we all need to act at some point to survive, because we'll be in a war against climate change in our country right now. It's happening in Scotland. Scotland is flooded. Why aren't you acting?
I get quite nervous when I hear reports come out that the biggest motivation for a climate activist is anger. White anger scares the shit out of me as a person of colour. Can the environmentalists who start down this road of anger control it and not lose sight of it so other people could take advantage? The next thing is anything that gets sorted out. I respect JSO, I'm in XR, but here's the score. Revolution is in multiple ways. And as the woman said, are we doing food? Are we showing people how to look after themselves at the same time as going after the pillars of justice? I don't see that connection. I think in this room we're more interested in academic discussions. Sorry to say that, but it's true.
Got a T-shirt just there.
Fab. Right. They are loud, aren't they? Okay, the question that I think we're answering is what have we done wrong, or what are we getting wrong? I think the thing that kind of ties, whether it's community organising, whether it's the Labour Party, whether it's trade unions, is democracy. And this isn't a problem that we'd like democracy within our movement. Like, is it the rank and file? Is it the people in the community? Is it us that has control of the movement and is shaping the politics? And this is something that's been a problem not just now, but under Corbynism too. So I'm part of the Labour Campaign Free Movement. We had a motion go to conference today calling for the closing of detention centres, for the ending of no recourse to public funds, votes for migrants, etc. It wasn't, this year it wasn't prioritised. We won that motion in 2019, by far and away the most radical policy that the Labour Party has ever seen on immigration. And the very next day, Diane Abbott went on TV and said, we're not going to implement it because it's too controversial and because it's too difficult. And so we have that same problem, both Corbyn and now, is the Labour Party democratic? I also spent, I also spent the last year working for the Royal College of Nursing, which got a shout out, organising nurses. I'll be really, really quick. And the same thing, it's negotiations held in back rooms while the nurses that have been fighting on the picket lines have no idea what's going on. That's the main question. It's always the main question. Do we have control of our movement? And currently the answer is no.
I want to take 3 more from this side, and then what I'm going to try and do is synthesize some of what's come up and throw it back, if that's all right. So 3 more. We've got hat. We've got yellow. Is that a Lacoste T-shirt I see? All right, a second-hand Lacoste T-shirt over there. And we've got right at the back hoop earrings. So, hat, second-hand Lacoste T-shirt, hoop earrings.
Aaron Bastani was walking around earlier asking people about Tony Blair and Keir Starmer and so on. And he asked me, and I realised I don't have an answer to that question because I'm 23. When I was 10, I had Tories. This is when I became aware that there was an actual world outside my Lego in my bedroom. There was Tories, and then I was 13, and there's still Tories. I've only known Tories, and I guess I'm a new leftist. This is new to me. This is my second year here. I really just want help to be guided as a new Tory. Not a new Tory. A new leftist. Sorry. Yeah. I want help to know what I can do to... Apologies, to stop being a fucking cunt. Thank you.
Listen, I'm not here to explain the actions of my colleagues, but he's nearing 40, all right? Cut him some slack.
Very acute eyesight, I have to say. We're talking about what we did wrong. The first thing I would say is we shouldn't be obsessing about what we got wrong. The ruling class rules. And let's not blame ourselves for the shit we're in. And every moment we recreate our movements is an act of strength. But on the other hand, in terms of like the programmatic issues, what have we got wrong? I think almost every current of the left has been late coming to the climate change party. And I think people have got to give up their attachments to their own theories, the theories which have sustained them through previous decades, and realize we're in a completely different place. And each faction or current of the left has got to rethink in light of all the issues around climate change, which I think we do understand. Thank you.
So I just want to try and maybe draw together some of the threads of things that have come up. I mean, one of the things that's really come up... Oh, hoop hearings, I'm so sorry.
Hi, my name's Emma. The first Roger Hallam talk I went to, I told him to fuck off, and then I signed up because it was serious, and I was sitting there as a mixed-race woman being like, how can I watch entire global nations go under fucking water and act like society is okay? And I'm not pretending that there's everything perfect in Just Stop Oil, but I do believe in direct action. And we in Scotland are moving into direct action around food, because basically we need to disrupt the systems that are already in place in order to break them down now, to create new ones before they break down themselves into fascism. So I think it's a really important strategy, and as much as we have sensitivities and we have so many ideological things that we hold as so important, at the end of the day, I looked at it and I saw this is the bus that's here. I'm not going to wait for a perfect bus to come.
So in terms of what kinds of organisations and institutions we need, and also what kinds of institutions and organisations we have, that's very much going to be a theme of the second half. In terms of what's already come up, I guess some of the things that I can detect is a frustration with too much theorising, not enough action, some frustration with the Labour Party, the trade union movement, which I think is interesting considering what Hillary was saying about the failures of the Corbyn movement to really tap into and engage with the trade union movement in a meaningful way. Maybe a question to consider is, did we have unrealistic expectations of how democratic some of these things would be? Did we have to reconcile ourselves to their reality a bit more? I don't know. And of course, something which is coming up, I think, in particular is race, but I think we can broaden that out to other kinds of marginalized identity as well. How do we bring our fullest selves to a movement like this, knowing that not everyone's going to have the same experiences as us, knowing that not everyone's going to have the same sensitivities as us, and a real worry and concern that those painful, vulnerable parts of ourselves and our collective historical experiences could be trampled on in mass movements like this. So maybe those are some things to just let marinate as I take some more hands. Can I see some more hands? All right, we've got blue shirt, we've got high-vis tabard, we've got excellent hat.
So I think one of the issues is that we deal with the Labour Party and we deal with industrial action like it's a binary. The left was dead in 1997, and we really struggled to be a significant force in British politics. And by 2015, somehow miraculously, we reawoke and we did a political struggle. And that was true of Unite with Len McCluskey, and that was true of Corbyn. There was not enough focus on trade unionism. And now we've led a completely unstrategic retreat from the Labour Party, where Unite won't support events like this because they won't back a political fund properly. And they've run a general secretary election on the basis of not backing political activities. We're in a position where thousands upon thousands of people have left the Labour Party. If we compare ourselves to when Neil Kinnock took over from Michael Foot, what did the left do then? The left built militant, they took over the council here and they fought Thatcher. And when they lost that battle, because they did, they took on the poll tax and they won. And we need to stop viewing our actions as binaries, stop viewing our actions as either climate activism or something else. I mean, we were both occupying Parliament Square, but we were also out door knocking for Corbyn, and we're also in a trade union movement, and we also are reps in trade unions. Why can't we move together, build a mass organisation inside and outside of the Labour Party, that does trade union activism, that does rank and file activism, but also does a political struggle that works in a political party, because we need systemic change from the state as well as from the grassroots.
All right, we've got a high-vis tabard over here, and we've got hat.
Hello, thank you. It's the Lacoste high-vis, actually. Yeah, we're all super busy people, yet, as Roger said, we're still fucking cunts. I want to ask questions to the audience. Who's sick of hypotheticals? Who wants to start organising their community? And who wants to start taking direct action on the climate? Is anyone interested in doing that? Yeah, hands up. I want to see hands up. All right, clipboards, let's go. We're signing you up. Let's take some names. You're going to get cool. We're going to hit the road next month.
You can
November,
do that during
March.
the break.
It's coming. It's coming.
All right, we've got hats. Excellent hats.
Thank you. Okay, so my understanding from my experience, which is limited, but what I understand is, and it's historic, the left always eats the left. We beat each other up, our different movements, all the time. I literally see it every single day. Bitching all the time, in-house and out-house. That has to stop, and it has to stop right now, because we've got a fucking problem, and it's really, really big. And then the other thing is, like, that movements get taken over by moderates. It keeps happening. I don't know why. I'm really controversial for saying it maybe, but that's what I keep witnessing, and we've got a problem about that as well. And the third thing is we've got a systemic issue. It's not a local issue. It's like giant, and which is politically, right? We need to come together in terms of changing the system, not for micro causes. All of the causes are valid. We just heard one person is in many pies. They're not the only one. We're all doing that, right? That's a problem. What have we all got in common? We've got a broken democratic system which needs to change, right? And how are we going to change the democratic system? We all need to come together to solve that, to change it. We need, what do we need? System change, but specifically, we need a House of Citizens set up, and we need proportional representation. And when we have those things, we'll get system change. Thank you.
Right. So I'm now going to liberate you guys to go to the bar. I will come to you in the second half. I absolutely promise, dungarees. But now we've got 10 minutes. Go to the bar. Have a think about everything you've heard. Have a think about this next part. What organisations and institutions do we need to win? So, we've had our ritual bloodletting in the first half. We had our rounds of self-flagellation as we reflected on what we, as a movement, have been getting wrong, have been doing wrong. Now, and this hopefully will form the lion's share of tonight's proceedings, we're going to talk about what we need to do to turn things around. What do we need to change? What kinds of institutions and organisations do we need to build, participate in, imagine in order to win? So once more, I'm going to invite our speakers to share their thoughts on this question. We're going to do it in the reverse order that we saw last time. And then once more, it's over to you. I want to hear your contributions. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your half-baked schemes. Really, no idea is too bad. But please don't make me regret saying that. So for another 5 minutes, Roger, would you like to... I want to start timing you from the moment you talk to me.
Okay, well, I've had a hard week, right? So I'm not really in a jolly mood. You know what I mean? I've had to speak to fucking Nick Robinson about the end of the world, and then he makes jokes. You know, I've got my limits. So I'm going to go in a minute, because I don't actually see the point, to be honest with you all. Right? You know, like 5 years ago, I had a debate with Natalie Bennett of the Green Party, and she was just belittling and pretending we don't face mass death. And so I walked out. But nothing's really changed, has it? Really, guys, nothing much has changed. You say you're facing mass death, and then someone talking about Labour Party politics. It's like, yeah, I'm really interested in that. But at the end of the day, there's a job to do, isn't there? So the job involves resistance against the government in order to get a reduction in carbon emissions, because if you don't, then everything else you've spent your life doing is going to go up in smoke. Literally. Right? You know, I've been an activist since I was 14. I think socialism is a great idea. But there's no socialism in this room, with all due respect. Right? Yeah, I'm telling you. Because you're not doing what is necessary to maintain life on the planet, which is engaging in mass civil disobedience. Right? And someone just came up to me and they said, oh, yeah, well, you know, I do other things. Of course we all do other things, right? No, we've been saying this for fucking 5 years, right? You don't need to dedicate your life to civil resistance. You need to turn up, right, for 3 or 4 days of the year with 10,000 people, and you'll force the government to change legislation. You've just done it in the Dutch situation, okay?
25,000, not 10,000.
Yeah. So 25,000 people to stop the next Holocaust. Seems reasonable, doesn't it? Yeah, it's a serious thing. I don't want to have a jolly time. I think you should split up into small groups and just look each other in the eye, decide what you're going to do. You see what I mean? There's no point in me going around conferences going, hey, 100,000 million people are going to die in the next 2 generations, and then everyone have a nice jolly time. That's obscene, isn't it? It's obscene. You know, I'm a jolly person, right? People know me. I like to have a joke. Seriously, I like to have a joke. But I don't want to have a joke about this.
System change, not climate change! People demand democracy! We're going to hear from the audience.
Anyway, so,
shortly.
Great.
Update politics! System change, not climate change! Why are you telling people to get arrested for climate when our democracy is incapable of delivering this change?
All right.
Why can't you touch people's hearts when you talk too academically? And that's why you don't connect to enough people.
Great. Well, you come up.
Well, I do. I'm happy to.
Yeah. You do a better job than me. Fine. I've got a million long.
I could add to what you do.
Yeah, great.
Oh, wait, I'm just going to step in here and say that we are really going to hear contributions from the audience, but Roger's going to get his turn, everyone else is going to get their turn.
Anyway, the upshot of it is there's going to be clipboards come round. The idea is you come down to London for 3 or 4 days, you know, you're going to be arrested, you get £300 fine, no one's going to die, you know, not at this point anyway. And with a bit of luck, thousands of people will do it. And that's your primary responsibility as socialists at this point in time, right? For the other 350 days of the year, obviously you're doing your great stuff. No problem with that. Yeah? But if we don't actually stop this from happening, it's the end, right? The end's really ugly, really ugly. You should know what that is, right? You know, when I was a kid, in the late 70s, I used to know socialists who knew people that died in the Spanish Civil War, and I always remember them coming up to me and saying, Roger, I'm a socialist, and I will die to stop fascism. Yeah? You need to be prepared to die to stop this. And all that's being asked for you at the moment is to get your bums down to London and make, you know, do the business. But it's been done hundreds of times before in this country. But if you don't, then you're fucking cunts, right? I mean, look yourself in the mirror. Don't look at me. The next 1,000 generations will be calling you fucking cunts, that's for sure. It's a serious thing, yeah? We've had it before in the 1930s. It's coming again. Don't fool yourselves. You need to get organised and go down there. So the clipboards are coming around. It's all right. It's not a cult. You know, just sign up, make a decision later, and that's all I've got to say. And I'm tired, so I'm going to go home. And I do love you all, seriously. That's why I'm so upset. You know, I thought socialism meant something, you know. Really, I did. And I've been doing this for 5 years. I've talked to so many left people, so many trade unionists, and they're just not getting it.
I'm afraid.
It breaks my heart, that's what I've got to tell you. It breaks my heart thinking about those socialists that I knew when I was a teenager. What are you people? Yeah? See what I'm saying?
Roger, it's time to let the other speakers go. Come on. Up next, we've got Hilary Wainwright answering the question, what organisations and institutions do we need to build to win? And like I said, we are all going to have a chance to respond to what speakers have said, build on each other's thoughts and ideas as soon as these guys have finished catalysing our discussion. Hilary. Oh, there's one right there.
Less pricks now than there used to be. And I mean, in a way, that's a response to the point about sectarianism. I do think, partly because of TWT, the movement has become much less sectarian. And I do think one of the things I'd want to emphasise is that there's no one way. I mean, I'm happy to sign up to Joint Stop Oil, but I also think there are people who are taking action, recognising the emergency, recognising the millions that are going to die if we don't have system change, who are refusing to produce aerospace engines, who, for example, during the pandemic, they turned their factory into making ventilators. Now in Coventry and Rolls-Royce, they're refusing to accept jobs making aerospace engines, but instead they're trying to bargain, trying to fight for making wind turbines. Now, okay, they might not be in prison, but they're going to risk their jobs, you know, and it's a struggle. So, but you know, I'd also say that Just Stop Oil and Fridays for the Future have been influential in changing their minds. So that there is a sort of ecology, there is a connection. So I'm really against saying there's just one way. There's not, there's several. And I've learned from the women's movement that change comes about through a recognition that the oppressors, whether it's patriarchy and gender oppression or it's exploitation, it's capitalism, it depends on us reproducing that system. And therefore, crucial to change is refusal and the development of alternatives and the development of a movement that can give us the strength to refuse and to develop those alternatives. And I think that applies to climate change, and that is really what we need to be doing. We need to be refusing and we need to be developing alternatives. Because it's not just about legislation. System change means actually challenging capitalism. And you can really only change capitalism through the actions of labour, the organisations of labour in a very broad sense. So we need Just Stop Oil, we need Fridays for the Future, we need that kind of direct action, but we also need direct action in our factories and also as consumers. So let's think about an overall strategy. And I think that means thinking about a movement that connects all these different struggles. And that means I think also recognising different varieties of political expression. So on yesterday we had Jamie Driscoll, who's standing as mayor in North Tyneside, in the northeast. You know, and I mean, I support him, but I also support John MacDonald. I don't feel I've got to decide which. We've got to have a strong enough movement that can have those different voices, and because we need them all. So I think that's how I'd end, just many ways, and an organisation that can bring those together. So not exactly ending sectarianism, but also being actually really positive about how we can help each other and support each other. And actually that means developing the alternative media, because that means a means of communication. And again, although I'm, you know, an editor of Red Pepper, I also really support Novara and support other organisations, other media expressions. So we need that multiple, non-sectarian way of organising that will really develop our strength, and one that is starting from where we are and where we can refuse, and the movement that strengthens that ability to refuse.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Hilary. We've got one speaker left before we open it to the floor, so please make lots of noise and show some love for Jamie Woodcock.
So I want to say a couple of things that follow on from what Hilary said. I think what Just Stop Oil is doing is incredibly important. I think people standing up and doing things is incredibly important. I was involved in direct action when I was a student, and this was a few years ago. And one of the things that we said in the student movement at the time is 500 students can stop a train, but 500 train drivers can bring the country grinding to a halt. And I think this is an incredibly important point, because we both need to stop the trains and bring the country grinding to a halt. And for anyone who's ever had direct action happen outside their workplace, it's empowering. Seeing people taking action is empowering. But what we need to do is to move those kinds of direct action, that passion that is coming out of these movements, into our workplaces where we can have more leverage to stop these things happening. Because I think it's absolutely right that we spend this session talking about the scale of the crisis facing us. There is no socialism on a burning planet, and it means we have to take these issues seriously. But it also means we have to take a look at ourselves and where we are and where we're organising, and think about how we can bring those issues together. Because I think Hilary has a very important point that we shouldn't forget, which is that it's us who makes this world and remakes it every single day. The process through which we fight for a different kind of world, whether it's on a picket line, whether it's on a Just Stop Oil protest, whether it's in an extended struggle in our communities around oppression, whether it is in a general strike, any of these things, we also see a glimpse of how the world could be run differently. And I think this is an incredibly important thing for us to hold on to. But we face major, major challenges for doing this. Most people in the UK are not in any kind of collective organisation. Most people are not in trade unions, they're not in political parties, and they are unfortunately not signed up to Just Stop Oil. There is a major gap between people having the confidence and the capabilities to take action. And so I think it's incredibly important that we have a diversity of tactics, but also see that there are major challenges we need to try and organisationally overcome. One of the projects that I'm involved in is called Organise Now, which any worker can sign up to, and we will introduce you to a coach from the labour movement who will call you and take you through those first steps organising at work. Many of us have lost those connections to the labour movement to know what it is to start organising, to even take those first steps. And I think it should be on all of our responsibility out here today to think about how we're organising. Because, and I realise this is ironic standing up here telling you this, none of us have the answers to what needs to be done. If we did, we could sign you all up and everything would be sorted. We can go to the bar, we can go and have food afterwards. Instead, it's through those struggles that we can start finding out what it is that's working and what isn't working. And that means taking those steps towards organising. A major challenge of this is seeing that our organising at work shouldn't just be around wages, pensions and conditions. These are incredibly important, but we've struggled to link political issues into our organising at work, and particularly issues around democracy, issues around climate, issues around oppression. And part of this is about rethinking what politics can be today. We've had some contributions from the floor about the importance of democracy. When we hear about the challenge of climate change, none of us would be doing the things that are causing this if we had any say over it. If we had a chance to have a say in our lives, we'd run these things incredibly differently. And so it's about rebuilding a politics that says actually all of you in this room matter, the work you do matters, the communities you're in matter, and the struggles you have over them are all signposts towards a different kind of future. No one is coming to save us. Anyone who tells you they have the solution is wrong. It comes from all of you collectively coming together to find these solutions. And so what I want to finish on is by saying what is to be done is to get out there and do the things that start building our power. I think you should start building at work if you're in a workplace. You should start fighting your landlord if you're a tenant. You should get involved in climate change activism. But you should try to link up with people who are doing different things and think about how we take the political into our workplace and into our struggles and fight together not only to end climate change, but for the whole fucking world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Right, as I said before, tonight isn't really about these guys, it's about all of you. It's about what kinds of institutions and organizations you want to build. Maybe you're already part of one and you want to invite others to participate. But this is fundamentally not about some people that you may already follow, people you may already admire, shining the light and leading the way. This is about you guys organizing, working collectively together towards something better. So please, can I take hands in groups of 3? Right, we have got, right, let's go. Pink t-shirt right there in the middle. Let's do lanyard. And let's, oh, sorry, we got 2 lanyards. We got earrings and lanyard. Right, earrings and lanyard, pink t-shirt, and can we have a zippy fleece? Here, maybe try this one.
Hello? Oh, no. I'm sorry, I have a very loud American accent. I'm from the United States. Apologies in advance. I guess one thing is, how do we get people on board when people are hand to mouth? It's like a blizzard out there and we can't see for the next week, let alone month, let alone year. So it's really hard to get people to visualize what a climate crisis looks like next year when they can't see tomorrow. And how do we support migrants who will be deported for climate action? I'm from the United States, so I come from a very privileged class, but I too am a migrant. And I can't show up to Just Stop Oil protests to be deported. I just can't. And working class people and middle class people are working the same jobs, making the same wages, and we need to align them politically because we have a lot more in common together than we do with billionaires, let's be real here. And just overall, I think we can get to be people together in the climate crisis, but it does require people on the ground doing different things and creating structures for people to integrate themselves, because no one can integrate themselves in a system they don't see themselves in.
All right, actually, we've just had a lanyard revolution. We're going to have a different lanyard.
Okay, we might need a bit more time because we're doing this together. I'm Rianka, this is Aaron. We don't know each other. In the break, a bunch of POC just kind of looked at each other and were like, this is fucking not a safe space. A lot of things are being missed out here, one being race. And as someone who has been a very active climate activist for almost 5 years, I used to be an XR. I know what I'm talking about. I'm not just bringing the race card up or whatever. But this, the left is always like, oh, we're always fighting over what kind of banners we want. It's not about that. We are we don't feel safe in so many of these spaces. There are barely any people of color here. And climate doomism is a white supremacist concept. We cannot be if there's no world, there's not going to, we won't even need to solve racism. We need to save the world first. We are not going to save the world without fucking tackling racism and without intersectionality. And I've done this spiel so many times to so many different people in so many spaces, and it's always the same thing. We literally felt like we felt gaslit. Do you want to?
You can go.
There's I could write a dissertation on this and still not be done. I don't know how to close this. We're just fucking tired and scared, and yeah, nothing's gonna change if you guys don't fucking step up like you said you would in June 2020.
Would it be okay if maybe I tried to synthesize this a little bit into something that we can build on together? Because I think something that's a commonality between what's just been said and what you've just said is that people have extremely urgent needs which have come out of the structural oppression and dispossession that they face. And when it comes to race, when it comes to class, when it comes to migration status, these are things which are flying at you every single day. And so when people are saying think of the future, sometimes the feeling is like, well, I don't have a future. Like, I don't have one. This thing is killing me today. It's killing me right now. And so maybe if I can think about phrasing this in a way that hopefully we can try and build on together more broadly, it's about saying, how do we meet these things that are so urgent for so many people and still being a mass, broad-based movement, something where we can move towards a shared goal and we're not necessarily just having to be reactive to that daily grind of oppression. How do we defend people today and save tomorrow simultaneously? Would that be a fair way of bringing it together?
I think you're getting somewhere with that. Yeah, that is.
All right, we've got a zippy fleece. Bad time to be a white guy on the mic, my friend. I can say this, I knew him at uni.
Cheers. I have absolutely nothing to say in response to what's just been said. I'm sorry. Look, our institutions and our traditions got smashed in the 1980s and 1990s, and we still haven't rebuilt them properly. I think at times it's felt like we have, and what we've had is various different kinds of shortcuts. I think the rise of Corbyn was the kind of the sharpest version of that. But we constantly are in a situation where we have the mood and the sense that something should be happening, but we don't have the means to organise it. Previous generations of the left had lots of organised tendencies, but the thing that's gone alongside that rise of Corbynism is the collapse of the organised left, and I think it's something that we need to grapple with. Organised political groups, the weird people who sell you papers outside. I'm personally not a member of one, but they've collapsed, and I think it's worth addressing what we've lost there. Because what is it that makes us resilient to bureaucratisation? What is it that makes us capable of organising below? What ideas are we taking into our workplace and how? What is it that takes an open-ended discussion about a million different things and turns it into a collective strategy that isn't just something that's kind of nice that we talked about, but which is something that we're all going to act on together and that we're all committed to doing? And the answer is democratic organisations that are based not on cliques, not on organising nice events, not on whatever, but on collectively held politics and strategies. And I suppose, I don't know if the answer to that is to reinvent the Leninist sects of the past, but we need something to cohere this movement, because we are a disorganised soup, and we have been for years and years and years.
Not another Jesus figure.
Certainly, absolutely not another Jesus figure.
Well, that's so embarrassing. I had a special guest and it was the second coming of Christ. Great. I'm going to take some more hands from over this side. So, okay, we've got a red top and a chain. We've got, fuck it, another red top. And we've got sharp suit. So, red top, suit. Oh my God, 2 red tops and chains. It's you without the scrunchie.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to bring the questions of race and the questions of strategy together. I think Roger's talk, while I think it's absolutely essential that we recognize the scale of the emergency, direct action is a tactic. The call to direct action isn't really the answer of strategy. And I think raising the specter of race, raising the specter of thousands, millions of deaths in the global south, in order to obscure the question of strategy, does not serve workers in the global south, does not serve workers of color in the UK and the rest of the imperialist core. So just focusing on the third world, not as like a blanket place where people are dying, but as the site of political struggle. Just thinking, sorry, there's a bit of a long comment, but thinking about the Indian farmers workers movement for a second, the farmers workers movement, which was a mass disruptive, direct action movement that ground the capital to a halt and successfully forced the Modi government to repeal 3 extremely neoliberal farm laws, or at least temporarily. That was actually shaped by extremely detailed questions of strategy that have taken place in the agrarian movement in India for ages, including about how classes formed in India. So in order to bring these 2 questions together, we need a really detailed understanding of how production works, of which are the key points of intervention. So which workers do we need to organize? How do we organize the sectors where there are majorities of migrants? How do we intervene in global production chains? How do we build solidarity between unions organizing similar campaigns in different countries? So these are questions of strategy that tie those 2 things together.
So we've got red shirt.
Riffing off Hillary and Jamie's point about wide-ranging, politicised, militant trade union organising and the theme of building bottom-up workers' power and not just saying but doing, I'm from the IWGB Charity Workers Branch, and I want to opportunistically plug an ongoing series of strikes with our members at the Royal Society of Arts, the first in the organisation's 170-year history. We've got 2 more strike days coming up next week, Tuesday 10th and Friday 13th. If you're around London, please come on down to our picket line. Also, if you work for a charity or a non-profit, and I bet loads of you guys do, please join our branch as well. The world won't end if you don't come, but I'll be pretty disappointed. Cheers.
All right, we've got pretty sharp suit just in the back left there.
I'm not a fucking cunt. But I am a stupid, ignorant twat. And
I hope we're writing this down, by the way.
And no, I definitely am. But then I would say that most people would probably admit that at times they are as well. But I think we need to lay down some ground rules which haven't been out. And I do take in a lot of concerns about the space. That the ground rules were that we are all in this together. Doesn't matter the way we think. Now, nothing or any liberated group or any court of independence was fought by one group or one person. It was a coalition of chaos. Whether it was the independence of India, or whether it was getting rid of apartheid, or whether it was beating fascism, it wasn't one person or one group. It was a coalition of different forces. And I think within us, whether we organise differently, some people do organise differently. I myself might prefer to organise in a democratic manner, with as well of grassroots, of movement building. Others might want to do direct action, but nobody's individual circumstances can allow them to do it in a certain one way. So I think the importance is that we do have to swallow the pressure, each in their own way, and also respect that that is the way that has to be done. No one will do it the right way, whether it was civil rights. Malcolm X had his own way, Fred Hampton had his own way, Martin Luther King had his own way, but the end goal was achieved in the end.
So I maybe want to, before I take more hands, which I absolutely will, I maybe want to draw out something which I thought was interesting about 2 of the red shirt propositions, because really, when you put them side by side, they're suggesting 2 different things. We've got my friend in the red shirt over here talking about strike action in their place of work, saying, okay, well, maybe working for NGOs and charities, maybe we don't think about that as being the crux point of capitalism, and if we finally bring down, Mind or Oxfam, then capitalism will come with it. But we're doing it because it's where we are. We're doing it because it's where we are, and so it's what we can do. And then I think we've got something else which is really interesting here, which is saying, well, actually, it's not about where we are, necessarily, right? I'm not in India, and I'm not a farmer, in case you didn't know. But this is actually such an important node of global capitalist production that if you interrupt this thing, the strategic point in global supply chains, maybe there's something really important that could be done. So I think this is maybe a difference that I would invite some reflections or propositions on. Should we be doing the thing which is close to us where we are? Or should we be doing something where maybe we have to map out where power lies, whether that's in terms of politics or logistics, and go, that's the spot we're going to hit? So maybe you'd like to take some contributions on that, if people would like to give them. But we've got some hands. I have a blue shirt. I have a yellow shirt right there. And I've got my initial lanyard friend. So blue shirt, yellow shirt, lanyard.
Thank you. This is sort of answering your question, but maybe not quite. I think, to me, it's quite clear that we're not going to come out of this assembly all agreeing what is to be done. And we're not one group. We're loads of different groups here. We're climate activists, we're trade unions, we're community organisations, and loads of other people. What I would like us to come out of this with is the common agreement that fundamentally capitalism is what is our enemy. And I'm not saying this just to say, oh, we need a revolution and we need to get rid of capitalism, because 150 years of struggle have taught us that it's actually not that easy. But I think we can accept that it is the same forces that are creating environmental destruction, and they're also the same forces that are suppressing our wages, and they're putting the cost of basic goods so high that we can't afford to live. So whatever we agree to do from here together, I think we should agree that that needs to be our target. Whether we're in a climate group or we're in a trade union, that is where we put our energy.
Hi. I think it's just worth remembering that there's 14 million people in this country who can't afford enough to eat. And I think we need to really get back to recentering material conditions of what we're doing, because where is the left on the cost of living crisis? We talk a lot, we have opinions, we have things to say, but what are we doing about it? Like, where's left-wing food banks? Where's a response like material needs? And I think what this really points to is a need to bring class back to the centre of the socialist project, right? This is about class, and class is a material condition. And right now, we have relatively little to say, or little to do for a lot of people in this country. We're a movement of opinions and not a movement of actions. And I think if we can recenter class back into our activities, we can start to see the pathway where we need to go. It's the same as every mass movement in history has a huge community organising contingent which directly address material needs. And the conversation in this room seems very much to be about the party, the sites of industrial struggle, or blocking some roads. And actually, we're completely neglecting the fact that many people can't afford their housing, they cannot afford to eat, they can't afford the basic conditions of life. In the cost of living crisis, what we're simply saying is you cannot afford to be alive under capitalism in this country anymore, and we are doing nothing materially about that. And I think we start to get to a more material analysis, we'll see there's different pathways forward, and we'll realise there's different options than just blocking roads. And I think whilst there is something to say for that as a tactic, it's not the only way and doesn't respond to that. And if we recenter class, perhaps we'll start to identify the targets of power and the sites of struggle, like where the billionaires are living, where these companies are based, and targeting those as a direct action strategy, and not gluing ourselves to tube trains and then telling everyone else who doesn't do it that they're a fucking cunt.
Sounds like the kind of thing a cunt would say, but...
Yeah, I was going to kind of make a similar point, actually, and I'm sorry, Ash, I don't have anything enlightening to say about your very important kind of like moving the conversation along, but yeah, I think I'm really sad and sorry that you're tired, Roger. Who else here is tired? We're all tired, and there's lots of reasons why we are tired, and that is something that we actually have in common and isn't something that's unique to individuals. And I think the reason why I was excited about this session, and I feel like we are maybe getting somewhere now, is that when you say, Roger, and I agree, what you need to do is talk to each other and figure out what you're going to do. That's literally why we're here. That's why we're having this session. That's why we're having this discussion, because we want to do that, and we want to figure those things out together. But I think the key thing is, strategy has to be developed, has to have that element of like bottom-up generation. And what I feel I've heard in terms of like I respect the hustle of the clipboards, I really do, I respect it. But I want to be convinced as to why getting in the road is what's going to tackle the climate emergency. I completely agree. We need to all think about the fact that, are we willing to be arrested for the cause? Are we willing? What risks are we willing to take? That's going to be even more and more important as the flooding gets worse, as the food production gets fucked, as the fires get worse. We're going to need to think about these things. But like, there has to be a logic and like a strategy for why we're doing that. And I just haven't been convinced of that so far. I have a lot of respect for the direct action comrades in the room, a huge amount of respect. But I don't think you can guilt trip people into a strategy and not explain to them why it's going to work. I'm not convinced yet. I'm open to it, guys. But I'm not convinced yet as to why that and that alone is going to work. And I feel like I would love to hear some explanations of that so that we can actually discuss it as comrades rather than calling each other fucking cunts. And that's it.
All right, more hands. Okay, would any of the speakers like to respond? Do you want to respond? You got the opportunity. Yeah, go on. I'm gonna give you 2 minutes. Is that all right?
Yeah.
All right. It's a real 2 minutes.
It's real 2 minutes, fine. I can't find my coat, so that's why I haven't gone. I think nothing really changes unless people get upset with each other and have a real conversation based upon what they really think about each other. And I've tried to find a balance tonight between saying how enormously annoyed I am, having related to the Labour movement for 5 years since the beginning of XR, and at the same time reaching out to some form of dialogue about what needs to happen in the future. And I'm hoping I won't be characterised of just doing the first side of that equation. I think it's really easy to fall into generalities in order to justify not really thinking clearly about what's happening. And I think a lot of people who have spoken have talking in general abstractions. Yeah, in which case, that's valid criticism, isn't it? I'm not here to pretend that I've got it sorted out. What I'm here to say is I'm enormously upset. And people change through emotional communication, don't they? And I'm upset, that's all I'm saying, because I thought you were better than what you have been. And maybe, you know... No. Well, it's not about family relationships. It's about having to speak to someone who's going to starve themselves to death. That's what it's about. Come on, guys, stop the cliches. You know what I'm trying to say to you? Stop the cliches. What I'm saying is I've been making a case for the strategy to the left, as you well know, or should well know, for 5 years, right? I mean, I've got about 21-hour videos on it. The reason why people aren't signing up isn't because they don't know the strategy, right? It's to do with privilege and displacement, isn't it? Anyway, there you go. That's my point.
I mean, I do think it's really important for us to focus this conversation on strategy, right? We've had strategic contributions from, quite a few people so far, and I want to keep that going because actually there's a few different theories of change that I can see right here in this room. We've got some people saying, actually, we really need to get our internal culture sorted out. We really need to know what we're doing about race and about class in our own spaces. I've got people saying we've got to focus on the material conditions of people who are outside of this room. I've got people who are saying we should organise in our workplace. I've got people who are saying we should organise in strategic workplaces. This is a big strategic conversation, and we should be having it. So, some more hands, please. Oh my God, there's so many hands, I'm so happy. Can I have the dark t-shirt just here to my left? Can I have, I'm going to prioritise people who haven't spoken before. Can I have, right here in front of me, great trainers, such good trainers. and a blue t-shirt. And don't worry, there will be a lot more chances for people to speak. So dark t-shirt right there, excellent trainers, which I realise you can't see with the roving mics, and blue t-shirt.
Just want to say I agree with lots of what's been said over there. I think we need to focus on anti-capitalism. The climate crisis is a symptom. It's a colonial legacy. We need to really think carefully about how we are addressing racism and colonial legacies. And I think we need to get more people on board with the root cause of the problem, and by engaging people who we are connected with in our communities. XR isn't connecting enough people. We need mass mobilisation, and we need to address to a wider set of people and meet them where they're at.
Thank you. We've got one more here.
Yeah, I've been doing climate change now for 40 years through Friends of the Earth, Labour Party and the Green Party. And nobody's speaking about the history of environmentalism and the history of climate change. In 1992, there was the Earth Summit in Rio, Conference of Environment and Development, where we had all the solutions to climate change. But stupidly, the United Nations didn't encourage countries to make it into law. It was a voluntary agreement. And the key elements that came out of 1992 was Agenda 21 documents for each country to look at the environment and deliver change, and also technology transfer to make it easier for developing nations to avoid dirty industries. Because it was voluntary, the Americans under Bush and the Republicans and the World Trade Organization outlawed technology transfer and then sought to dismantle the agreements that had been made at the Earth Summit. And I've been struggling with climate change ever since. I've taught in schools, I've taught in youth groups, I've taught in community groups. I've done it for a long time. And I've taken direct action with Extinction Rebellion. I've taken action with Friends of the Earth and with Greenpeace. But we're here and we're still talking about what the problem is. And we're not yet sorted out how to deliver it. We've got to the stage where Extinction Rebellion are an absolute necessity in order to bring about political, social, environmental change, as is Just Stop Oil, as are Friends of the Earth, and we all need to work together.
Thank you. We've got blue t-shirt right there.
Hi, what I wanted to highlight is that you're probably all parts of groups, even small communities, where you have a sphere, there are your sphere of influence, people who listen to you, people who like you, people who want to get in your pants, right? And use that, like the trade union, I mean, whatever. Moving on. Sorry.
It's not that kind of party.
I know. Moving on. Sorry, I apologize. My trade union is about to become the first trade union whose pension funds are going to be completely fossil fuel free. We've completely divested. This happened over 8 years because two people, I wasn't part of those, two people who actually I thought were really hot, started it and got us involved, and that's how it happened. Imagine if every single trade union got to that. So what I'm saying, you're already part of that, so do it according to what you already have. I'm also a migrant, I'm also queer, I can't get arrested. That's just not going to happen. If you don't realise that, then maybe you're not a cunt, but maybe you're smelling your own farts, right? But you're already part of something. Look around, look at who likes you, who listens to you, and see what can be done with that. That's all.
All right, more hands. I'm still prioritising people who haven't spoken before. So we've got glasses and the white top with cherries on it. We've got, right at the back, dark t-shirt, gold chain. And we've got cardigan. And then I am going to come around to this side, I promise.
Hi, thanks so much. I want to build on the last comment, really, and to just recognise that a lot of people have left this room, and it's not strategic to take away people's hope. It's not strategic to take away people's inspiration. And I think that earlier on someone said, I'm 23, all I remember is a Tory government. Well, I've been an activist for 20 years, and I would say it's got better. Spaces like this used to be even more white, even more male. And yes, there's been a lot of theory discussions, but outside of these main spaces, I've been involved in the migration stream. And actually, the conversation's amazing. And what we've realised is that through taking an intersectional approach, an anti-racist approach, abolitionist approach, a LGBTQ inspirational, loving each other approach, we have got better. We're moving the conversation around migration away from these like white-led massive NGOs to grassroots organisations talking about border abolition. That's amazing. That's a huge win. And someone was talking about we're not having left-wing food banks. Yes, we are. It's called mutual aid networks. They exist, and it's caring communities. And someone making a comment and then thinking, shit, actually, I don't want to encourage sexual violence or non-consensual engagement. That's a really good thing. And us being intersectional in our thinking and our action is a positive strategy. And after the first break, I heard someone saying, that comment from Roger was great, because I know it might upset some people who are into like identity politics. And it's just like, oh, mate, we've moved on. Like, if you still think that talking about race, talking about queer people, being trans-inclusive is a distraction, then this movement is not going anywhere. But this movement has gone somewhere because we've rejected that, right? And so if you're thinking in this room right now, I've got nothing to be hopeful for, you're wrong. And it's doing exactly what you just said, right? It's looking around you, finding your communities, embracing your communities, caring for each other, loving each other. Yes, getting angry, but channeling that anger and lifting other people up, not pushing them down.
So, I've completely forgotten who my hands were, but I know that one was dark t-shirt with a chain.
Hi. So I speak as someone from the housing movement. I'm involved in London Renters Union and just broadly from the socialist left. But I am also hearing like a lot in this room of like just taking pot shots at the climate movement, like particularly this question around strategy. And I'm finding it just a little bit confusing because the climate movement, and particularly XR, and then more recently Just Stop Oil, have surely been the most successful social movement in the last, 20 years? Like, they shut down London. They mobilised thousands and thousands of people to, like, give up their jobs at times and commit them to this cause. And popular opinion on climate change has shifted so massively in this country. And we speak here as the socialist left, the housing left, so many other movements associated with the Labour left. We've been really unsuccessful in the last, and so, I'm involved in a movement where we take community organising and deep organising exceptionally seriously, and I'm really glad that I've committed my life to that. But the housing movement has seen no success since we took that turn. And that doesn't mean it's not going to work. It takes a really long time. But large-scale mobilisations, which get a lot of press coverage, do seem to be having effect for the climate movement. And so I don't know if we as the socialist left, if we want to distinguish between the two, can really sit here and criticise the strategy of the climate movement.
All right. More hands. Did I forget another hand, Debs? Oh, yeah, sorry, cardigan. Cardigan. How could I forget the cardigan? I'm so sorry. Cardigan.
Yeah, so just a bit of a brief history of my experience as being an environmental activist in this country. I started out around the first April Extinction Rebellion thing, and I got thrown into the deep end of all that for a few years. And I remember having this conversation outside of my regular pub with a person of color I'm pretty sure they were queer. But essentially, at that point, I was saying that the climate situation is more crucial, kind of a chicken-egg situation. So yes, social justice is important, but we do need to tackle the climate stuff more so. I've changed my opinion from that since then, and it wasn't all at once. I didn't have like a eureka moment. But I am at the point now where, there have been comments about XR being very white and it not being a safe space for people of color. And I have a bunch of friends who are super into climate stuff, and they've been telling me this for years. And I can tell you, as someone who was like on the internal side of XR, I've seen my fair share of stuff that I was really embarrassed about. Not from me, but from other people. It was, BLM London, some emails that got sent. I'm not going to go into detail, but yeah, wasn't great from us. We were talking about the doomism thing, and I hear a lot, and I'm sure everyone here hears it at some point, the world's fucked. Now, yeah, sure, that's a conversation you can have. There are some people who are going to be saying that and then thinking something else as well, an extra. Some people will think that and just give up.
I'm so sorry to cut you, but we've got like 5 minutes left, and I really want to take some more hands. Is that?
I will wrap it up in 5 seconds. I don't think it's enough. I think it's irresponsible to stop the conversation with the world's fucked up. We need to think beyond it. It's fucked up, and then what? What are we going to do about it?
I'm gonna take 3 more hands, and once more, I'm so sorry. Like I can see you, purple floral shirt, but I'm gonna prioritize people who haven't spoken yet. So okay, we've got a French chore jacket. I can see you guys pointing at someone, but I can't see who. All right, French chore jacket. Okay, who else have we got? All right, we've got dark t-shirt here. And we've got mauve top.
Hey everybody, so I'm going to speak really quickly because I'm like a cis white man, I'm 50, I'm not the person to speak.
Cancelled.
However, classic, not the first time. However, I think this isn't an assembly, right? An assembly would imply that there would be a sovereign decision that could be made, right? And we could all go away from this. What this is a series of people with very different strategies about how they want to change the world, throwing their ideas into basically an ether and arguing amongst each other, right? What we have as a commonality is capitalism is our problem. Whether you're a worker, whether you're in the climate movement, whether you're in an anti-racist struggle, capitalism is the phenomena that is fucking all our lives up, right? So as a proposition maybe moving forwards, as opposed to sort of blah, 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 why don't we maybe not give up on the things that we're doing? Let's carry on doing those, whether you're involved in worker struggle, day in, day out, whether you're doing walking down the road and whatever, just a boil. I didn't mean that patronisingly, by the way. I actually think those people are very good. But why don't we target the fucking city of London? Let's close down financial capital next year. Every group can come there. They can write their own propaganda about why the fuck they're there. But at least it begins something.
All right. We've got dark t-shirt, we've got mauve top, and you know what? I'm going to take one more on top of it, and Deborah can't stop me. And I'm going to go for your arm is about to pop out your socket. Okay, so we've got dark t-shirt, mauve top, we've got dislocated shoulder.
Thank you everybody. Hi. I just want to say something, and it's that I have been feeling very heightened since Roger's talk earlier, and I don't believe we should be violent with people we love, and I found that really violent. But going to the abolitionist talk this morning and thinking about transformative justice, I understand why this culture that we've been part of has made people very violent, made us all violent to different degrees, but we need help with that. And it needs to be really recognised how harmful that is to bring that into this space and continue that harm, because I'm feeling harmed, and I know I harm people and things all the time. But that, I don't think that's what we need now or in the future.
We've got Mauve Blouse.
Thank you very much. I think there's some commonality in the things I've heard, which is about people working together and coming together. I've organised with XR, I've organised with Insulate Britain. Insulate Britain was absolutely, if that wasn't aimed at some of the poorest, most marginalised people in this country, I don't know a social movement that is, and there was an abject failure of the people on the left to come and join Insulate Britain, even to support Insulate Britain. So something could have been done there. The unions could have come out and supported Insulate Britain. There are these moments that we have where solidarity, if it means anything, can be shown. I'm organising with Just Stop Oil. So, yes, there are opportunities. People talk a lot about us coming together and building a movement. So let's do it. Let's do it. Let's put our bodies on the gears and the wheels of the machine because it has become so odious. We don't need complicated theories of change. What we need is civil resistance to stop a harmful government and a harmful machine.
Thank you. Right.
Sit down. Okay, I'll sit down like this. Okay. Oh, bloody hell.
Right, don't get too comfy, keep it quick.
Yeah, all right. Basically, I'm not really on the left. I think you guys all have wonderful ideas. I'm not on the right. I don't really identify in that way. As far as I'm concerned, I believe in the power of people to come together and make informed decisions and listen to each other and reach the right ones, okay? You all have wonderful ideas. I'm sure you would implement them in a wonderful way if you had access to power, but the problem is that you don't. Your politics is captured. Your Labour Party doesn't even let you vote on proportional representation. That's how little they care about your democracy. And the answer to our problems is as it's how it's always been in the history of this country. Every 100 years, we need to update democracy. First, we stop Parliament being in service of the king. Then we give it taxes. Then we we kick the king out. 100 years later, we get him out of politics altogether. It took 200 years for us to even think that normal people should have a say and have a vote. It took 100 years since after that for women to finally be given the vote. And that was 100 years ago. And it's time to update our democracy. We need a people's house. Imagine a permanent home for inclusive decision-making where people were selected by sortition, by random, like a jury, given the evidence, able to decide on citizens' assemblies and make the big decisions. Imagine a country in the hands of its own people. That's what we need in this country, and that's the only thing that's going to save us in all of these catastrophically colliding problems. Thank you very much.
I said Athenian participative democracy, and my friend over here delivered in the end. I want to say a few things before I let you all go to the bar, and this conversation will continue at the bar. The first thing that I want to say is of course I'm hearing a lot about people feeling deeply alienated from this movement on the basis of identity. But as some of you may have noticed, I am a full-time ethnic minority. And I have been for many years now. And I've seen this movement change for the better. I've seen it go from a space where I couldn't talk about race at all to one where I've got a shared language with people, I can find people with shared experiences, and you know what, it doesn't end there. Because this movement was never about me finding my people. This movement was never about me finding people who look like me and talk like me and have had my experiences. This movement was about struggling with people who are not like me at all. And it's about finding a shared strategy, a shared cause, identifying a shared enemy, and working towards that common goal. And I want to work alongside people who aren't like me at all. I want to work alongside people who are trans, who are non-binary, who are gender non-conforming. I want to work alongside people who are white, who are black, who are Asian, who are indigenous. I want to work alongside people, God forbid, who are from the north. Because ultimately, if we don't get our shit together and recognize that there are many, many, many more of us than there are elites, there are many more people who are locked out of capital, who are fucked over by capital, who find themselves having to battle to have their humanity recognized every single day. If we don't clock that that's a majoritarian project, that that's a 99% project, that that's not a 3% of the population that's Asian project, that's not a 1% of the population who are trans project, we will lose, and it will be our fault for not recognizing the humanity and the potential and the love that exists within each other. And so, before I let you all go, and I know that I said that I will, the last thing that I want to say is this space, the world transformed. Being on the left used to be really lonely. Like it used to just suck. Like you had these ideas and they weren't reflected anywhere in culture, they weren't reflected anywhere in politics. And if you were lucky, you might find one or two friends who thought the same way. But you never had a community to hold you. You never had people you could meet who were excited about the same things and who wanted to work towards the same goals. And that's what the world transformed has given all of us. And they make it look effortless. And in a way, some of it is effortless. The way the volunteers come together, the relationship that exists between them is beautiful. They make it fun. They make it seem aspirational and cool not to sleep for like 5 days. But it's not effortless. And it takes money. It takes all of us reaching into our pockets and deciding that we're going to support it. So there are volunteers all around this room with card readers, with buckets that you can chuck change into. And if you found this valuable at all, even if you found it valuable because you felt your buttons get pushed, right? I mean, I'd like it if you thought it was valuable because you had this like hugely empowering experience. But even if you didn't, even if it just pushed your buttons, reach into your pocket and give them something, because the left would be so lonely if it wasn't for the world transformed. So thank all of you for coming. Please go to the bar and keep talking. I don't even think you're cunts.